So Saturday night, you're watching Clash of the Titans with me, Jeremy Kyle. I'm joined by the wonderful Julia Hartley-Brewer, the wonderful Mike Graham, and Kev O'Sullivan is here as well. Now imagine, you've lost your home in the LA fires and the worst, wildfires in history. You've got nowhere to live. You've lost all your possessions, your most treasured memories gone up in smoke, and looters are on the rampage. You'd say that life couldn't get any worse. And then there's two dreadful human beings, those ghouls, Harry and Meghan, turn up, offering their love and no doubt a few jars of Meg's bloody jam to ease the pain. And the service and duty the Sussexes are known for, as long as it's all caught, of course, on camera by their Netflix crew. What a wonderful couple they are. Back home, there's another devastating force of nature laying waste to the UK's political landscape. Yes, it's Nigel Farage and his seemingly unstoppable Reform Party. One of the biggest polls since the general election the other night by YouGov has Reform just a percentage point behind Labour and ahead of the Tories. So what's Starmer doing about the threat of Reform? Well, with all the sure-footed of a plan of C32... What does that say? C3PO from Star Wars, I don't care. Desperately trying to log on to the nearest Wi-Fi, Sir Starmer made yet another one of his magnificently dull speeches saying he wants to use AI to turbocharge the economy. Just don't mention the fact that one day computers are going to take everybody's job away, including you, the worst Prime Minister in the history of the world, you numbskull. There is, of course, one important job where the incumbent is desperately in need of an intelligent boost, though. That's the chance that he has. Rachel from Accounts has all but crashed the economy herself with her jobs tax budget, but can't do anything other than bang on about Liz Truss. Someone put Rachel from Accounts out of her misery and give her a job that she can actually manage. Maybe flipping burgers. Would you like lettuce with that? Just roll the blimmin' titles, please. Thank you. So, Julia, happy to have you here. What's the first story tonight?
No, he is genuinely.
I am genuinely happy. What you got?
No, he's not.
I'm just glad to be sitting in this seat for a change. Right, listen, I think Reform. I think what is really fascinating, there's lots of other things going on, but I think that poll by YouGov, it's its first poll actually asking you, what is your voting intention? If there is an election tomorrow, of course there isn't an election tomorrow, and you ask that question, but nevertheless, it was very, very revealing. Reform, just 1 percentage point behind Labour. Labour on 25, Reform on 24, and Tories languishing in third place at 22. Now, even under Kemi Badenoch, under new management, they're languishing in the polls. Labour already down. Now, look, a lot of governments tend to sort of go down in the polls just after election because, you know, you say lots of nice things and then you do lots of bad things, especially in your first budget. This is unprecedented, though, in terms of the plummeting in the polls, the lack of support for the Labour Party, but also this third party, Reform UK, coming up the ranks, more and more people thinking of them as a serious option. Of course, we have got local elections, not across everywhere in the country. Lots are going to be delayed and cancelled this year. And I think it's going to be really interesting because I think there is just this feeling that people are done with the Tories. They wanted them out. They didn't necessarily want Labour to come in, but they're not ready to have Tories back yet, no matter how bad the economy is and all the bad decisions. And they're looking at Reform and Nigel Farage as an alternative. And I think the next few years are going to get very, very interesting.
I actually thought it was a seminal moment because I'm much older than all of you, but I was brought up to always believe...
Oh, you're not?
No, that's true. It was always the two-party system of government. It wasn't. Everybody talked about PR, it couldn't happen, the STP and Liberal Democrats, but I actually thought when that poll came out, that was a reset of British politics, and I actually think... I'll stick my neck, you'll tell me I don't think they'll win a majority next time, Reform. I think you're going to have three parties at about 200 seats. I genuinely believe they are now a major political force.
We are seeing, and I think Kemi Badenoch and the Tories are having trouble seeing this, I think the kind of disintegration of the two parties.
Completely agree.
Badenoch and her crew seem to think, you know, that by rights they're the Tories, they'll win, they're the opposition.
You should vote for us.
We've heard nothing from her.
They are not noticing what's coming up behind them at a rate of knots. Reform are really on the march.
I think it's interesting.
An awful lot of people as well are looking at Reform who might not otherwise have done so before the election. I keep hearing all the time that people voted for the Labour Party thinking it would be different, thinking it would be a change, thinking it would be actually, you know, a new beginning. and they do some good things. But they haven't done one good thing, and that's the problem.
No.
I mean, they've been so shocking about it. I know we all talk about it on
They're
our show.
socialists.
And
It
we
was
talk
always
about
gonna be
it. He was
shocking.
open, he was blatant. He was, you're
Yeah.
a socialist during the election campaign. Keir Starmer said yes. That said, looking back, there are these problems with the first past the post system. Now, I would stick with the first past the post system. I don't want coalition governments that, you know, and they can band together and keep other parties out. I like our system. I think it is the best of some bad systems.
Yeah.
But it does mean there is a mountain decline. When you look back at, say, the SDP, back in the 1983 election, going back a long time now, but the SDP, Liberal Alliance, they got 25% of the vote. They only got 23 seats. I think there were only 600 seats.
I think
but that's the key thing.
No, I agree with you. That's the old thing of 10,000 years.
There's a point where you could be on 25% and you still get very few seats. You can be on 30% and then suddenly get a load more. But it completely depends where your seats are, or your votes are sort of
Look
piling
what
up.
the Dems did. They did very well in the last election because they targeted the right seats.
They're suddenly not talking about PR anymore, either. They're quite happy now.
Here's a $1 million question for you. If this carries on, Reform and the Tories, Reform in second, the Tories in third, or Labour or whatever, is a deal doable? We have people on the show going, the Tories wouldn't do a deal. Would Reform do a deal because they're the biggest party? Would they talk about?
Well, they say they won't, but I mean, politicians say they won't.
To keep Labour out?
You know?
Yeah, it's possible. I think that the trouble with that deal, potential deal, is that Farage will want to call the shots and Badenoch won't like that. What I would
If
like...
she's still there,
in
then.
terms of they're going to have to get rid of her.
I don't
because
think she
she's
will
not
be there.
working.
I think Jill's
what
right.
I'd like to know is how the hell is it that 5 Reform MPs make so much more noise in terms of
because they're doing their job and they're not taking it for granted.
Than the Tories.
Yeah.
I thought the best thing is what you said. When you said it's almost like Badenoch thinks, I don't know, she's talking about anything. I haven't
hopeless,
heard
I'm
a
sorry.
policy. I'm just looking at what, I don't know why I'm doing that voice again. I'm looking I'm looking at what went on, right? And you talked about how they're having a march stolen on. The Reform are in your face. They're talking about the Manchester bombings. They're talking about everything,
Grooming
right?
gangs, they've been ahead on that
they're
one.
in your face. And whether you agree or not, they're very active and they're very vicious.
Yeah.
aren't
I
they?
think the key thing, though, is going to come down to, again, like doing deals is all very well, but people talk about every party's a broad coalition. So, you know, like Labour Party from Corbyn all the way to the right-wingers. And the Conservatives have certainly been a broad coalition, so either the most successful political party in the Western world for 200 years, really. But the key thing with them is that it's only so broad you can get. And if you've got people who could basically stand for the Green Party or the Lib Dems on one side, and you've got people who could easily go and, vote for Reform on the other, that is true broader coalition because your policies are mutually exclusive.
Yes.
You can't be massively pro net zero and anti net zero.
Yeah.
I don't think. I think if you actually look at that poll, what was interesting, it was basically 47% versus 46%, the left and the right.
Yeah.
But the left will kind of shore up each other. Lib Dems and the Greens would shore up a Labour government in a minority situation. Would Reform do that for the Conservatives? I think the crucial thing is I think those votes will count each other out. So basically, every time you've got a strong Reform candidate chance and a strong Tory chance in the same seat, one of them's not going to stand down. The Labour candidate gets in. It is very possible that Labour could win another big majority in 2029.
Except if the Conservative vote collapses altogether, which it probably will, because look at what's happened in Europe. I mean, look at what's happened in the United States,
point.
because it's a lot of it is about how much money have you got in your pocket as well. And if Reform start promising some decent financial policies, people will go to them because they love their immigration policy already. Most people, even
let's not forget-
even hardline Labourites, though, have now admitted that
Let's not
immigration
forget in the last
is too high.
election, they were not in any way even the beginning of the end sorted in terms of their party. They've got 5 years to get this together. Why I said was I thought it was a seminal moment. I think people will take them seriously and not just vote tactically.
Yeah.
Here's what Reform UK are doing brilliantly, and Kemi Badenoch simply does not have the ability to combat it. They are reminding the public every single day that the Tories broke every promise they made to us.
They're attacking everybody.
And they lied about migration, and Reform UK will not let the public forget it. And in that respect, the Tories are in massive trouble because the public are not in the mood
They
to
can
forgive
promise
them
whatever they
either.
want, but people will rightly say, but that's what you said last time and the time before and the time before that. I think net zero is increasing. I think immigration is a massive issue.
Yeah.
The economy, obviously, but the economy and immigration massively tied up with mad net zero policies.
Yeah.
I think that
really
is
good point.
the culture wars and all of that. But genuinely, you cannot have growth. You cannot make lives better for people if you've got the net zero targets.
Yeah.
And the Tories are as signed up to that madness as the Labour Party.
Loonies,
You went
idiots.
first because you are the most important person. coming second is the man who is vying to be the most
I'm
important.
last, by the way.
No, I am.
Can I just say...
I am today. I'm bloody last.
Excuse me, you're talking about the king of the brilliant breakfast show here, by the way.
Listen,
I thought you were a queen. Oh, no, sorry, the queen
well,
of mornings, the
she
king
used
of
to be.
breakfast.
I'm just carrying on where you left off. I mean, that's
Oh,
all I'm
shut
doing.
What is this?
Anyway,
Oh,
listen.
shut
He's always,
up.
listen, he's my man. He's always going to be
Listen,
loving.
the point is this, right? And one of the reasons why the Reform Party did so well, and I'm going to move on in a minute to Rachel Reeves, is because of Lee Anderson and Richard Tyson, Nigel Farage and Rupert Lowe and all those guys, because at the end of the day, they
Can you name the fifth one? Because I can't.
No, the bloke that beat up his girlfriend. That's what I call him.
Oh,
I
dear.
mean, you know, sorry,
Yes.
but he did. Anyway, bottom line is that... they make you laugh. Lee Anderson did that great speech at the weekend where he referred to, you know, Rachel from Accounts.
He coined
you know,
Rachel from Accounts.
Yeah, he
Rachel from
did,
Accounts, you know, Mad Miller Band, you know, Mastermind David Lammy. And people talk like that in the pub.
I think you feel
Until
like
we
I
find-
think you feel like
you know,
they speak our language.
do.
They care about what we care
Yeah.
about, and they're talking about what we give a damn about.
Whereas, in contrast, you know, Rachel Reeves, you know, or as I like to call her, Richard III, 5, 4, 3, 2, and Keir Starmer.
Let's move on, because
fixing
I'm
the
being shouted
foundations.
at.
All right.
Michael Graham, the king
Rachel
of
Reeves,
breakfast.
right,
Rachel
Reeves,
Thieves.
right, she comes back from China, right?
Yeah,
Nobody
China.
knows why she went to China.
No.
But she got a deal from China worth £600 million.
Oh, come on,
which,
come
as
on.
somebody pointed out, would not pay for
a
the
bit of small
transfer.
change, isn't it,
which
really?
somebody said would not pay for the transfer of 3 players from the Premier League to Saudi Arabia. It's approximately 60 times less than they gave to Indonesia.
Peanuts.
30 times less than they gave to Peru.
It's
right?
peanuts.
So it's absolutely peanuts.
Paddington went to Peru.
Means nothing. She came back. The only thing that was good about her return was that Tulip Sadiq got fired effectively. She had to resign.
She withered.
She resigned.
She resigned.
She did. She had her head
She
chopped
was
off, as you
resigned.
do in the spring.
she withered.
But she didn't do anything wrong, though, of course. Absolutely
of
nothing
course
at all.
not. Absolutely not.
And
No.
the door remains open for her to come back. But at least it took the heat away from Rachel Reeves for a moment. But just consider, you know, the bond yields now, the interest we're paying on those is so high that you can forget about any savings they're making on tax.
Absolutely.
And it's higher than Greece has to pay.
Yeah,
Greece is a basket case.
we
We're
have got,
paying higher debt.
we have got the most expensive electricity in the world,
Yep.
practically, right? Thanks to the fact
Net
that the energy
zero.
business is run so badly. You know, she has no idea about what she's going to do about a March budget. Keir Starmer this week refused to say that there wouldn't be a budget in March.
Exactly.
She keeps hanging on grimly to the fact that there is stability in the economy and people are going to be better
And
off.
growth.
When?
Thank you. Elon Musk and Dominic Cummings have allegedly joined forces to outwit Starmer. Not that that's going to be too difficult, no. And Harry and Meghan are up to their usual antics. Stay tuned. We're coming back in 3. We're off for a week. Ta-ra. Welcome back to this faint attempt at a television programme, Clash of the Titans. I'm here with Julia Hartley-Brewer, Michael Graham, I'm Jeremy Kyle, and this is Kevin O'Sullivan, who's got our next topic, which is Musk and Cummings.
Elon Musk and Dominic Cummings. Now, the
This whole
story...
thing just becomes a voiceover.
Yeah,
then.
it does.
The story at the weekend was, this is neither here nor there, but I kind of believe it, that Dominic Cummings is helping Elon Musk launch his social media broadsides against Keir Starmer and the government, supplying him with the kind of incendiary material that's likely to wind them up. It does explain why suddenly Elon Musk became very knowledgeable about our rape gang scandal.
So glad you
Actually, he's quite a clever guy. You can probably read stuff.
I mean, he does
Yeah,
own
but it-
X.
but it
He does
came-
own X.
But
yeah.
it came from nowhere. The point my point is this plays into what we were talking about with reform earlier. That what Musk, Cummings, and Donald Trump are deploying is a new kind of politics that Starmer and our cosy little British traditionalists can't handle. They're warning, you've got to be so careful with your language. Watch the language. No. Elon Musk, Dominic Cummings, Donald Trump don't give a damn about the language they use. They don't play by the rules, and our politicians are completely discombobulated because they live in a cosy little world of
Let's not
formalities.
Did you notice this week that,
Yeah.
you know, we had the whole free speech debate, and that's gone on and on. And this week it transpired that because part of their workers' rights bill, if you went to a pub, which you can't have a fag in the garden, a pint's probably £8. If you and I sat in a pub talking about transgender and our opinions about our religion or the rape gangs, glad you called them
Restated
what they are.
biological facts.
If some emotionally 17-year-olds
Yeah.
behind the bar
Blue-haired.
going, Oh, I feel awfully traumatised by that. We can bloody well be arrested.
No. The landlord could be sued by the employee.
All right,
so
but
the
it's
landlord will
still
tell
rubbish,
us
right?
to be quiet.
Or a
ban
rather
us.
clever barman who thinks there's money in this.
Sell the
This
story.
is where
Julia
it's all
Hartley-Brewer.
wrong.
Yeah.
Can I just point out that the Labour Party is not entirely inured from saying horrible things about people? You know, they stand up and go, "Oh my God, isn't that awful? Look at the terrible things they said about Jess Phillips." Well, don't you remember what Angela Rayner said about the Tories? Scum, and that's not the worst of it. You know, we've had plenty of Labour MPs calling Donald Trump names. David Lammy, for example, called
David Lammy, Wes Streeting and Jess Phillips, their Twitter feeds for years have been full of calling people abusive
I think
names.
that in their cases was very unwise, but I have no problem with them insulting Donald Trump or Donald Trump insulting them. We've got to allow people to speak the English language. We've got to allow the people to speak the English language. And unless Keir Starmer and indeed the Tories, not so much Reform because they understand it, unless they understand that politics is changing, changing all of them, they are screwed. They are screwed.
But also, it's not that you're not going to be penalised for speaking plainly. Like the sort of Lee Andersons and people like that.
Yeah.
It's actually you're going to be welcomed by the electorate because they're fed up with the niceties and people policing their language and people policing their own language and the cancel culture. People have had enough. And again, the people who've had their say on this mostly are the people who go along with it because it benefits them. Yeah. Everyone else is going, do you know what? I'm fed up also. And people are saying, I'm fed up of being called a racist or a bigot or a xenophobe or ignorant or stupid or all the other things that everyone's called every day for transphobe, for stating simple truths and facts on all of these issues.
But don't you think it's also very ironic that at a time when Donald Trump is deliberately stirring it up, he's going to get, inauguration on Monday, sort out the hostages or they will be hell to pay. Everybody's running around. When you think what's happened to Europe and America and finally Trudeau, that wet liberal's gone in Canada, we're like the only country that is stuck with this socialist, I'm going to say the wrong word again, bollocks of a government. Their ideology is just so wrong.
We're stuck in the past. And one more thing about Elon Musk, this is another thing that makes us look out of step with the modern world. It's all like, what's Elon Musk? He's not allowed to interfere in British politics. Yes, he is.
He's allowed an opinion.
We've got a free country here, allegedly, with free speech. And if a foreigner wants to get stuck in, he should be...
Can I just ask you...
I didn't like him saying that we should have another election. No, I'm sorry. Whether you like the outcome of the election...
though.
He can give an opinion, but he's sort of demanding we should have... some of this stuff, I think, overstep the mark. I wouldn't ban him from doing it, but I do judge him for saying something.
But would you not also... would you not also respectfully agree that when he got involved, finally, about the rape gangs, that we have finally, after 20 years of deceit and lies and cover-ups, this entire country is talking about it because I agree with you about the election.
We're no further forward. We are no further forward.
I think we're talking about it more than we were.
Well, people, look, there's not a single fact out there that I didn't know already.
But we're talking about it earlier, aren't we? We're talking about it.
Talk is cheap. It's only if there's action. I think that Keir Starmer might be persuaded on it, but I mean that may well happen.
I think there's
not that keen on
I'm
Dominic Cummings. He reckons,
I like him.
Dominic, you've done enough damage already, mate.
I can't tell you why I like him, but I like him very much.
He's the reason we got lockdown in 2020. So I'm sorry. Bye, Dominic. No, thank you.
But I do think you're right. I do think that he has highlighted. You say we're talking about us in this bubble. People across this country who don't know that Sarah Campion's been talking about all of these things about rape gangs. They've heard maybe something about Rochdale or Rotherham. They don't know it's 40-plus cities. They do because
and also
of
Labour
have been
more Labour politicians than ever have been forced to come forward and start talking about it when they would have previously said, we're not talking about that, we're not letting you have it.
Or they just shout racist at you.
On the foreign interference thing, these are the same people who sent a team of people over to America to campaign for Kamala Harris.
I'm talking of which I have
also, by the way, intervened.
I haven't been here for a couple of weeks, but did you see that footage at the funeral of Jimmy Carter this week? When she took a seat and behind her was Barack Obama and Donald Trump. By the way, Donald Trump's wife was looking miserable. That was the day her mother died, a year ago, by the way. That was a fact. But Trump and Obama are having... And the look on Harris's face... Like
she actually went like this.
But also, it's interesting, we've got the Trump inauguration on Monday.
Yeah.
And
you going?
Obviously, yeah.
Keir Starmer's not going.
And Kamala Harris and her husband haven't basically offered a courtesy visit to J.D. Vance and his wife so that they can actually come and see the residence they're going to be in. There's been one phone call. It is the normal courtesy. Now, it wasn't done during 2020, 2021 because of lockdowns. But, I mean, again, she's just so tacky.
I'm going
to move on. Last thing, go.
Kamala Harris hate Barack
Harmler.
Obama because Barack Obama told the Democrats, you put her in as the candidate and we will lose.
Well, he was right. And
Well,
I
he was
love,
right.
As Biden shuffles off, and we all know
Yeah.
he's completely incompetent, doesn't he? He's utterly going to go to his retirement thinking, I didn't lose to Trump.
Yeah.
She did.
I
That's
could have
smooth.
been
I could have won.
me.
Right, it's the
Biden's a very
final
happy
subject
man.
today. And one of those subjects people go, oh, but our viewers and listeners love Harry and Meghan, who, by anybody's standards, we've talked about from now till the cows come home. You know, I don't want all this publicity. I want to go to California, land, sign a deal with Spotify.
Privacy.
Honestly.
That's all.
So we've had Jam, we've had Netflix, we've had all of this. Obviously,
Meghan.
the horror that we've all seen, the LA wildfires, appalling, and the climate change people jump up and down. There's looters, everybody's losing their homes. They appeared in masks. Her, Meghan, looking very sincere, cancelled her cookery programme that was going out on Netflix and stood and
Thank God for that.
painfully held people and gave
So
them
they haven't
comfort.
cancelled it,
Almost,
just
hold on a minute, almost royalist. And I think it's what was the name? I think Justine Bateman in LA described them as disaster tourists,
They-
which I
they-
think is the greatest line
Tragedy
ever.
vultures,
Tragedy
grief grifters.
So we're just going to turn up. And the irony about this, apart from the fact that they're idiots, is I didn't think they wanted to be royal. So why are you going out and doing this? Is it with your camera crew to look good? But the irony of it all was, the very same week, the wonderful woman, I know you're not a royalist, but to me, Kate Middleton is everything about what the royal family will continue to be. Iron Kate comes out, goes and visits the hospital where she's been treated for chemotherapy. No big
They'll
fuss.
hate that.
Didn't take a
They'll
camera.
hate that.
She completely put these two idiots in their
Grifters.
place because people are just fed up
Yeah.
with them. But disaster
Yeah.
tourists,
It's a,
what a
photo-
great
it's a
story.
photo op.
Also,
of his-
nice touch with the...
You know how long they spent there? 17 minutes.
No, really.
17
No.
I thought
way.
they might have done something useful and then they got the cameras for the last huggy bit.
It was Gavin Newsom's wife who was actually running the head
New scum, we have to call him. Gavin
he is
Newscum.
called
No, we
that.
don't call anyone
He is
scum.
called that.
We don't
I
call
call him
anyone
Gavin
scum.
Newsom. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Donald Trump called him Gavin Newsom.
The
I
point,
don't
the point is that
He's
she was helping out, actually giving some food out to people.
Yeah.
And they basically sort of glamped onto her and thought, oh, this will be good. And then they suddenly found a new friend in this guy who runs the World Kitchen, you know, who's been doing the job for tens of years, you know. And also, the final touch was the brand new LA Dodgers baseball cap they were wearing, which had LA on the
But
front.
why
And you just think, for God's sake.
they just, just quietly go, you're very rich. They said they were opening their home to their friends. Oh, really? I'd love to know how many of your friends
So they
have
don't
now
open
moved
around
in.
for tea
No,
again.
they got a free...
List them.
They
List
got,
them.
by the way, they got a free house for months on end.
Yeah.
From
Tyler
who basically couldn't get rid of them. They were sitting tenants.
There wasn't any rent going there,
Yeah,
was
no,
there?
exactly. When they were just sort of fleeing the media in the UK. I mean, it's just ridiculous. But again, why don't they have the sense, even if they just want to be completely cynical, why don't they go on and just go and spend like 2 days quietly behind the scenes, no cameras,
Yeah.
Because you got
working,
it right.
and then you get your PR
Because
people
you got
to put it out
you got it
afterwards.
right. There is no sense
They're
at all.
Think
about
They're
it.
stupid.
Think about it.
I don't know
Think
who
about it.
advises them. They get
Los-
everything wrong.
Think about this. Los Angeles, it's got the biggest stars in the world.
Yep.
It has celebrities that make Harry and Meghan look like minnows.
Yeah.
Tom Hanks, Tom Cruise, Margot Robbie, whoever.
You know, he said Marlon Brando. Then. It's that old.
Not anymore, but for people of that magnitude. Now, they could have all gone down and for a photo op. Why didn't they do it?
But I'm with
because they
Julia.
realised it was not appropriate.
But I'm with
it was
Julia.
inappropriate.
But I'm with Julia. These
Get to
two
the end of the
are,
sentence
they are
sometimes,
the
can't you?
thickest couple.
Only
They
occasionally.
never, ever call it right, do
No,
they?
they get
don't
it wrong.
seemingly ever
Which
do
is
the
why
right
they
thing.
can't keep any of their PR team because they
Because
obviously
she
aren't
doesn't
listening
listen
to them.
She doesn't
Yeah.
listen. She won't listen. It was the mistake of their careers. It really was. People in obviously I've still got lots of friends there. They're disgusting.
Can you prove that?
All right, no, I've got
Can
lots
you
of
prove
associates. They are they're disgusted.
People
They're
he owes money
disgusted.
to.
If you have tuned in tonight, you'll have learned one thing. Kev has,
What for,
Kev
I
has
wonder?
Are you a friend of Kev or an associate?
I'm an associate.
But
Is that
they're
the same as a friend of Dorothy? I get
very similar.
confused.
Who's Dorothy?
Very similar.
They're
Who's
disgusting.
Dorothy?
I'll tell you later.
No,
the
I
people of
Dorothy.
Los Angeles.
He lived in LA for 10 years. Who's Dorothy?
Yeah,
Must know who Dorothy
Yeah,
is.
there's a lot of Dorothys
My
in LA, I'll
favourite,
tell you that.
favourite story that we can't do is when Kev ended up staying in Barbados for 2 weeks simply because he can get a flight back. There's associates everywhere across the world.
Exactly right.
That was-
This is a man who used to call me Jeremy Vale and now works for me. That's all from us on Clash of the Titans tonight. A big thank you to our CEO, Julia Hartley-Brewer. This is because this week I read a text and it described the talk people like this. It said, and I quote, Julia Hartley-Brewer, slightly frustrated but very successful CEO. Mike Graham, a mob gangster boss.
Yeah, really?
Jeremy Kyle, an unemployed used car salesman.
Yeah.
And Kevin O'Sullivan, a teacher with a drug problem. Thanks for watching. See you next week. Ta-ra for now.